Hello, everyone, and welcome to Indie Game Arcade, a podcast all about indie games. And this episode, we're talking about blueprints. I'm one of your hosts. My name is Chris, and I am flying solo this week. Joseph is in the process of moving, so you're stuck with me right now. And good for Joseph, because this is a non-Joseph game that we're going to talk about. So he's going to be very grateful that he's left out of this episode. But this is a game that I am completely obsessed with lately. It's taking up all my time that I have to spare. So let's go ahead and get into it.
Game start!
So Blueprints was released on April 10th, 2025. This was developed by Dogu Bomb and published by Raw Fury. Retails for $29.99. And for a quick description, you are playing as a young man named Simon who inherits a mansion called Mount Holly from his dead great uncle. But in order to claim this inheritance, you have to locate the hidden 46th room of the mansion within 1 day. There are limits to this set by the mechanics of the game, making this a roguelite experience. And if you fail, you start over the next day and the rooms of the mansion completely reset to a different layout, making this kind of like a puzzle roguelite or roguelike, if you will. So I'm recording this like early in the morning. I've got a cup of coffee here. This is the kind of game that you brew yourself a tea, a coffee, something with, because you are going to need your wits about you as you play this game. So that's what I've got here as I talk about it. So sit back, relax. We're going to talk all about this thing because I've got a lot to say. But the first thing that we really need to do is get through the mechanics of this game, especially if you don't know how this game works, you haven't seen it yet. The mechanics sound very confusing at first. And I was, when I first saw this game advertised, I was like, I tried to explain it like last episode, and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to explain this thing without making any lick of sense. But now that I've played it, I've got some ideas on how to make this make some bit of sense. So each day, as you are doing a run, you have a blank blueprint where you're looking at 5 by 9 squares. 5 squares along the width, 9 squares along the height. And what you are doing is drafting different rooms of this mansion into those blank spots. At the very, very top of this blueprint is this antechamber, like the very top middle. And you don't exactly know how that's going to help you get to the 46th hidden room, but obviously it plays some sort of role into it. So that's the only one that's like fixed on the blueprint right from the get-go. Other than that, what you do is you are walking into this kind of entrance hall. There are 3 doors. Every time you approach a closed door and click on it, you choose from 3 possible rooms. It'll give you like a random allotment of like 3 cards where it shows like a different kind of room. There are more rooms available in like this kind of like pool that can randomly come up than there are squares in the blueprint. So there's like a lot of stuff that can discover, like the runs can be completely different. But this is what's called drafting. So you get these 3 different rooms you can choose from, and the rooms have different colors associated with them, like outdoor kind of rooms, like let's say a patio, as an example, a courtyard, those are green rooms. There are red rooms that have usually some sort of like negative effect to it that I will explain a little bit. There are orange rooms, which are usually hallways and places that have like a lot of doorways and things, which are extremely handy. Bedrooms, those are pink rooms. With all of these things, each like room that you get will usually either have some sort of function, some sort of boon, item, something. The big thing that you are having to work out very quickly is that you can soft lock yourself as you are drafting these rooms. So if you are looking at a room that has, let's say, only one door on the other side of it, so you will make that room, and once you get to a door and begin that drafting phase where there's 3 to choose from, like, you can't back out. You can't be like, oh man, I shouldn't have gone to this door yet because whatever the reason, like that's happened a few times with me. I wish I hadn't approached this door just yet. You will draft it. Let's say it's a bedroom that has another door on the other side. So you go into the bedroom. Let's say that there is an item in there that you need. I will talk more about those items in just a bit. And then you go to that other door. You approach that, you draft again, and you choose from the next set of like 3 rooms. However, let's say you draft and choose a closet, and that has no other outlet. It's got a bunch of items in there that you need, because a lot of those dead-end kind of rooms do usually have a lot of items that you want, unless it's like a red room like the lavatory. So they're still very handy, but there's no outlet. So you are essentially cut off right there. So then you have to kind of backtrack and get to another door that you have yet to draft from. So you can see where, if you aren't careful, you can kind of soft lock yourself and you can't move forward, because once you run out of doorways that you can draft from, then you've essentially like ended that run. You really are locked. And then what you have to do is just kind of like pause the game and choose, call it a day. And that basically is like ending your run. You go to the next day, everything resets. So you're starting over from scratch. The rooms are once again randomized for the draft. So you can try again. So I was talking about some of these rooms have different items and things associated with them. I'm going to talk about those right now because those are essential to moving on. However, there's one thing that I do need to cover that is kind of in tandem with that. You might be thinking, well, what's stopping you from just really going through this whole thing in one run? There is like a limit to your movement within this. From the very beginning, you are limited to what's called 50 steps. And a step is used up when you pass through a threshold. So from one room into another room, that will cost you 1 step. There are some rooms that will cost more steps than that. I'm thinking like there's like a basketball court, or I think it's just called gymnasium, where you lose 2. That's a red room. When I was talking about some of those rooms, those red ones will come with a price to pay. There's also like the weight room, which like is somewhat necessary sometimes when you need a lot of doors, because it does have like 3 doors to it. However, that one cuts your steps in half. So it also really sucks at the same time. But there also are rooms that will give you steps back. A lot of the bedrooms do that, which is very handy, like the guest room, a master bedroom. So not only are you having to be careful with how you're drafting those rooms, you're also having to watch your step count. And it seems like 50, like it feels like a lot, but once you're moving through these rooms and you're realizing like how much backtracking you do have to do, because you really are also having to do a lot of exploration through this game, because it's not just move from room to room until you get to the antechamber. There is a lot of puzzle solving in this thing. I will have a lot more to say about that in just a moment. The point is, you're moving from room to room a lot. There is a lot of backtracking, especially if you're not careful. So those steps can go down very, very fast if you aren't optimizing everything that you can. So let's talk about what items and everything you might find in these rooms. So keys are one of the big things, and the other is jewels. Those are two currencies, essentially, that you can collect as you're going through these rooms, through this entire game. They're both very, very necessary. As you get farther into drafting and development, so moving farther up that grid in your blueprint, eventually you're going to start running into locked doors. So originally you could just go up to a door, draft your room, move through it into the next room. Eventually you're going to start hitting locked doors that require keys. If you don't have any keys and all the doors you have left that you can draft from are locked, you've soft locked yourself again. Same for jewels. There are rooms that have a lot more function to them, have secrets. They're kind of like basically a higher cost room. And some of those require jewels, not just to like get through the door, but to draft them. So that'll come up during the actual drafting phase. So you've chosen a door. Maybe you've even unlocked that door. You get your drafting panel of your 3 rooms that you can choose from. And maybe you see one that also requires, if you want to choose that room to be the one you go in, it requires 1 jewel, maybe 2 jewels. There's a few that even require 3 jewels to create for you to move in. So if you don't have those jewels, again, it's something that, you can't move forward into. You can't use that room. So I was just thinking as I was talking, have I ever gotten stuck in a situation where the draft was all jewels? And that has not happened. But what has happened to me before is I have had a situation where I had no jewels. And I only had, this was the last doorway I had available to me, let's say at the end of a hallway, and I had, locked myself out of any other place to be able to move forward. And so I'm drafting, no jewels. And the selection I had was a closet that had no outlet, and then 2 rooms that required jewels. So essentially it was like I had to choose the closet because it was my only option, but because it had no outlet, I soft locked myself out and couldn't move forward. And I knew right then and there, can't move forward. So you are balancing the steps, your keys, your jewels. How else can you assist yourself with that? There are lots of tools and objects that you can find to help with this sort of thing. Now, some of these are kind of like randomly found throughout the house, throughout the mansion in different rooms. So a lot of it comes down to luck. However, there is another currency, which is literally currency. It is coins. You can collect coins. Some of the rooms that you draft, like there's one specifically called the commissary, where you can spin those coins to buy certain tools. So, for example, some of the most handy ones, and I would say the most handy one is probably the metal detector. If you get the metal detector, then what happens is more stuff will spawn randomly in some of the rooms that you go into. It'll be keys, it'll be jewels, it'll be more coins, and they'll show up in like random places, and your metal detector will go off and start making a little noise when you're close to it so that you know there's something in this room. So that, I think, is probably one of the most important tools for you to get, especially like early in your run. There's also the sleep mask, which is also another really, really good one to have. And the sleep mask's purpose, if you get a hold of that, then anytime you enter a bedroom, let's say a bedroom that gives you just something low, like 2 extra steps when you enter it, like gives you 2 back, that sleep mask will add an extra like 5 onto that. So you go in there and then you're getting 7 back instead. That is extremely handy to have when you are having to balance those things. So you can see where a lot of the tools and everything are extremely handy. There's also something like the sledgehammer. You might occasionally run into lock boxes placed around. Those require keys to open, but there's usually a lot of really good stuff inside. Sometimes there's more keys in there, so you could take that risk. use one of your keys to open it. If you have the sledgehammer, though, you can use that to break those locks and open the lockbox and not use up one of your keys. So that's another really good one. The magnifying glass is also paramount to have to solve the overarching mysteries of this entire thing. So here's the thing. It's not just about solving the case of where's this 46th room. That is like the thing that really, kicks off this whole thing. But once you get in there, once you get into this game, you start exploring, you start realizing there are multiple other mysteries going on within this mansion as you start looking at stuff in these rooms. Some of the rooms don't really have anything going on, but some of them have a lot of other stuff going on, which is the vaguest thing I can say. I don't want to ruin things. One thing, I don't think this is too much of a spoiler, but one thing you'll notice very, very quickly is someone that lived in the house, and I believe it would be, trying to think of the family tree here, it probably would be your cousin. I can't remember if it'd be your cousin or your aunt, was an author. And you start learning about her and about how she disappeared under mysterious circumstances. And you learn more about that as you examine certain things around the house. Newspaper clippings you'll find, notes left behind. There is all kinds of different things that lead you to learn more about this mystery. It's not a mystery to everybody, is what I will say. Somebody knows something. And that's not the only weird thing going on. I think there is a reason that you're finding jewels all around this house. There is a very specific newspaper clipping that will make you wonder about that, about why those are there. Also, just the fact that you run into certain rooms and some of the things contained in those rooms will also give you pause. Things like the laboratory. There's certain things in there and a certain machine that will make you kind of wonder about what is really going on in this place. There are so many things to unlock, and I know that I'm being very vague, but the reason I'm being very vague is because, one, I'm still kind of in the midst of it, and I know more stuff than I'm giving away, but I'm trying to tread carefully because this is one of those games that you find all these mini little revelations that I think are leading up to a really big revelation. I love games that do that. So I don't want to ruin anything for people that want to get into this game and experience it for themselves. So I'm trying to really, really hard to limit the things that I say and not give too much away. And where this magnifying glass comes into play and why it's so important is you will find notes and photographs and some of those clippings and things all over in different rooms. And there will be things on there that you wouldn't see without having that magnifying glass. There's a very specific photograph that I found in the background of this thing. There is a tree, and I could just make out that there was something carved into that tree. And I used the magnifying glass over it. I saw something very specific on it. There was numbers on it, right? Carved into this tree. And I remembered that and kind of mentally filed that away as, that's got to be something important, right? Why else would it be so hidden within this thing? And it wasn't until several runs later that I found a way, and I don't want to say how just yet, but there is a way to exit the mansion through a certain way. I ended up finding myself in a place outside and something that looked like I could unlock another area, but I needed a code. And I just noticed that there were lots of trees around. And I'm like, maybe, just maybe, the numbers from that tree that I saw What if that was it? And lo and behold, that was exactly the number I needed. That opened up so much, like so many new things for me when I did that. There's actually, well, it's not me. It's our mascot, Seymour, the Nerd Sloth. He's been playing Blueprints on our YouTube channel. If you go watch Seymour play it, I think it's on the second video, you will see when that happens, like exactly that moment when when Seymour, the subconscious maybe part of my brain, who looks like a little nerdy sloth. Yeah, come on. It's just me. When I realize that that's what's happening and just things just start clicking and then it leads to more and more. And that's like one of the big things I wanted to really emphasize with this game. There's been so many moments where I feel like, wow, I've gotten really far. I think that maybe I'm getting to a point where there is something's going to tie up and I've got to be close to the end or something, only for me to unlock something huge and find that there is a ton more content and stuff to explore. And then I realize I'm nowhere near the end. There is so much more for me to do and discover and explore. That has happened to me multiple times. And that doesn't just happen from, the example from me getting outside and finding things to unlock out there. But the more that you go and deeper you go into the room and drafting or into the mansion and doing all the drafting, you will discover more and more rooms that you hadn't discovered before. As of recording this, I think last night I did my 13th run, so day 13. I got multiple rooms I had never seen before. And there were so many clues, so many things in there that I have yet to kind of figure out. There was a safe in one of them that for the life of me, I could not figure out the code for that one. Usually, I think usually the answers for most of the safes are contained within the room that they're in, but I could not figure out the one I was in yesterday. There's just so much to figure out. This is, honest to God, this is probably the ultimate puzzle game. And I don't think my brain has been this engaged in a puzzle game since probably Return of the Obra Dinn. I'm a huge fan of this kind of genre, and I love, and you guys know because I've talked about it multiple times, I love games like The Case of the Golden Idol and Return of the Golden Idol. I played the heck out of. As difficult as those games are at times, those games are not nearly as complex as a game like this or a game like Return of the Obra Dinn was, because these are so exploration heavy. They put so much more emphasis on your ability to explore and investigate, rather than games like the Golden Idol series where it feels a lot more on rails. And you can find everything that you need very quickly to figure things out. And then it's more along, just your brain. Can you figure everything out when you have all the pieces that you need? Here, in a game like this, there are a lot of barriers to getting all the pieces, and you don't even know where the pieces are. That makes it so complicated, but it is so engaging, so interesting, and so fun. I'm having a blast playing this game. I highly, highly recommend this. If you were someone that loves mystery games like this, if you loved the Golden Idol series, but especially if you loved Obra Dinn, which is that is up there and probably my top 10, you will love this game. Absolutely. I have no doubt about it. This is a game that you will love. The very first run I was doing too, I kept thinking to myself, and I think I even said it out loud, I expected there to be more. I kept expecting more. I expected there to be more in each room to do. I thought it would be a little bit more escape roomy. After I got farther in, I started kind of seeing, oh, okay, I wasn't understanding what the game was. And then as soon as I started run 2, I was 100% addicted to this thing. I'm like, oh, I get it now. It's clicked. The game expects a lot from you as the player. I think there's also a very obvious exchange of respect in that way from the developer of this, because they are putting so much on your shoulders as the player of like, yeah, this is not going to be an easy game whatsoever to figure out. So I love that. I honest to God think that this is Game of the Year contender. Not just for me, but I think you will see this in conversation for a lot of people once we get to the end of the year. And I think it's extremely well deserving of it.
Combo!
So let me talk about some of the other games I've been playing this week. So first I want to talk about Dice and Goblins. This came out on April 4th of 2025. This was one that Joseph had talked about several weeks ago, and I actually played it a couple of weeks ago and I forgot to talk about it. So I'm bringing it up now. This is basically an RPG with a little bit of the kind of like tabletop sort of mechanics to it, where you're like rolling different die. I love that aspect of it. It's very cool. But there are some things that I'm like feeling kind of critical of right now, and I'll explain those here in a second. So you're moving around in a 3D space in the overworld, and one of the big issue I think that I have immediately is the movement mechanic in that overworld. You can only really move one space at a time, and granted, you can move quickly or in that way, but it's kind of like stuttery because of that, which I don't know, that just seemed like a really weird choice to me. And then also you are, moving side to side as well, like you can turn, and it's all done because this is supposed to simulate sort of like that D&D sort of grid kind of style, but you are moving like first person through this kind of thing. So it does feel a little bit jarring in that aspect. And then sometimes when you turn, there's like some sort of snapping going on with the that movement mechanic. So I had this issue where multiple times when I would, let's say, turn right or something, it would kind of overcompensate a little bit, and it would kind of, I guess if I held on to, like, if I pressed the arrow too long or something, or if I was using a controller and I was holding it too long, it would snap me to move more than I wanted to. So there was like several times where I ended up in a place that I did not want to. There's one time I actually ended up like falling off of like this ledge and dying because of that, and that kind of sucked. So like that part didn't feel very good. But that's like one of those things that, I mean, I think there's some really easy things that could be done to address that and fix it, where there's like a lot of stuff that I think this game does do very well. But one of the other gripes I have that I want to get out of the way real quick before I can do all the praises is that the overworld enemies are all represented seemingly by this same purple orb with red eyes and horns. So like as you're moving around in this 3D space, you will like come into contact with exactly what I described, and that is representative of whatever enemy. I think I would have liked to have seen the different enemies in their own styles. They're like, just depict them how they look. And the reason I say that too is because when you see friends and NPCs throughout the overworld, they have great designs, and it's totally different. They look more like a drawing, almost like Paper Mario style. Oh, like they're sketched out and then they've got that like wide white sort of outline to them in that very Paper Mario kind of way. When you get into a battle with an enemy, that's how they look. And those look really awesome. There's a big variety of enemies that you can go up against. So it's just weird to me that they didn't do that in the overworld and just use those same designs for the overworld part. I have no idea why they chose to go with the orb with the eyes and horns. No idea why. but like you'll run into the same orb, and then it could be any kind of enemy once you get in. Maybe it's just to keep you from being able to plan for what you're going to go up against, to keep that kind of random. I don't know, but I wasn't fond of that. But what I am fond of is the battles and the mechanics of those themselves. So the die rolling system is really cool, and it changes depending on what kind of weapons and things you have equipped. As you're going through the overworld, you're opening chests. You are going through kind of like a maze-like area to sort of unlock doors, find keys to do that, and move throughout this space. And as you're doing so, you are finding weapons and other items to equip. Depending on what you have equipped, you'll have different die that roll whenever you're in battle. Certain weapons allow for combos with special abilities if you roll specific numbers. Like you might have a sword where you'll get a certain ability will like pop if you roll 2 1s, or a 2 plus a 3, something special will happen. And I think that that's really interesting. I also like that you can have 2 weapons equipped at one time, as well as a shield. So you have different die for all of those. You have a shield die, you can have your 2 weapons and roll all of those. There's also a heal die you can get to heal yourself. And each round of combat, you're always rolling against whatever the enemy is doing, making up the difference. So the difference is either causing you damage or causing damage to the enemy. Almost kind of like in the way that we talked about Lone Star last week. Either you're doing enough damage to cancel out the amount of shield that they've got, or vice versa. So it's basically, that's how you do the battles and everything. And then some enemies will have different status effects and stuff on them as well. Like there's some, I think it was a bat or something that had like a vampire effect that I had going in, where for so many rounds they could attack me, do this kind of bite, and they were basically leeching my health for so long until we got through that, or I killed them quick enough that they could stop leeching my health because they were dead. Anyway, because of that, like the variability in the combat really makes this game, and that's where the bread and butter is. That's what makes this really fun, really interesting. There's some epic boss battles to be had as well. And there was like a couple of those that I feel like I barely scraped by, and it was really rewarding. And there's also like a level up system to go with that as well, just like any good RPG. There's a cool story going along with it. So there is a lot to really like about this game if you really want to get into it, the issues it has aside. So definitely would recommend you check it out. There might be a demo still available. You'd have to look and see, I'm not sure. But that's Dice and Goblins. And it's literally spelled dice in Goblins with like a little apostrophe in, not and. So go check that out on Steam. I think it was a small price point. I didn't write that down, and I should have done that. So anyway, give it a shot. The other one I wanted to talk about today is Nautical Survival. This came out April 9th. This was the bullet heaven that I talked about, where it was at sea and you were a boat, essentially. This was really fun. One of the things that really makes it stand out is you have a limited sight. So picture in a way, like if you were familiar with how the bullet heavens kind of work, and that's just what I'm calling it. I don't know that that's the term that's really being used for it, but it could be. You are at sea, you are a little boat. In the middle of the map is like a lighthouse, and it is emanating a circle of light. And that is what you can see at the moment. But you can go beyond that field of light, and you need to go beyond that field of light. When you do that, you just have a tiny circle of light around you that stays with you as you venture out into the dark. There's like things you can go to circumvent the problem of not being able to see enemies and stuff when you do that. And I'll talk about that in a second. And the reason that you would want to go beyond the light is there are different hubs that you want to get to. I think there's like 5 total in each level. that give you the ability to do certain upgrades. You have to earn coins for those upgrades, though. Like any of the survival kind of genre, everything you kill, you're getting some sort of like, there's always like jewels or coins or something that you're earning from it. So here you're getting coins and you're getting experience, essentially. So you get those coins, you go to the hubs to get upgrades or to buy things. And the things that you're buying, which is super interesting to me, and I love this, is you're buying crew members, which are really cool. There's like a variety of crew members you can get, and buying them might give you different things. You could get certain like passives with them or certain abilities with them. They might come with specific weapons, including yourself, because you start with a very specific fisherman as well, like when you start your run. And your boat also has very specific abilities as well. Handling is like one of them, which like definitely you want good handling. And I would upgrade that handling as well because, it is hard on the keyboard if you were trying to drive that boat around. I would recommend using a controller for sure. That made it 100 times easier. You'll be able to choose different crewmen to put in your boat to give you like all these different upgrades and abilities. And like I said, everything, they all have their own little upgrade tree. So like you can level them up as you get more experience and things. It's a case of where if you have like multiple crew members, you have to kind of choose which one, once you have enough experience, that you want to level up. And I think in this game, it's instead of calling it like level up, it's like promoting. So you're promoting them in their job, essentially. However, you got to have room for your crew. You've got to have room for weapons. So you only have you start with one weapon that you choose at the very beginning. You can add more weapons to your boat, and the weapons go automatically, just like almost any of the other bullet heavens and everything. But you need to have space for all these things. One of the hubs, you can expand your cargo using coins. However, the price for that goes up every time. So the more coins you earn, the better. That has got to be like priority number one. Upgrade the cargo, get more weapons, get more crew. Some of the crew will have like really good bonuses to things like getting deals at shops, or one of the best crew members, I think, is like the navigator, where you can see like he marks all the enemies within the darkness. So you can see where those are as you're trying to navigate and get to those other hubs. And what's nice too is when you get to one of those hubs, it will mark it on the map so you always know where that hub is, because you'll need to keep going back to those hubs whenever you want to go and, let's say, expand your cargo again, or go buy another crewman again, or go buy another weapon again, or there's one that will heal your boat if you sit over by it for so much time. So that's a very handy one. You can also, like at that, I think it's the lighthouse, like right in the middle, you can always pay to expand the circle of light that you have right, at the beginning. So it expands your field of vision. The main goal is to survive 20 minutes, and the enemies will ramp up in waves. There's 3 bosses, and the bosses are fairly difficult because their health is really high. The first boss that I encountered was the Kraken. It took me several runs to finally beat him. But it was fun. I think it was worth it. I know that one's a very cheap price point. I wanted to say it was like $9 or so, somewhere in that area. But if you are a fan of the genre, I think this is one of the first games of the genre in a long time that feels completely fresh, very, very different from all the others. Like, I've had a really good time with Rogue Genesia, but that game feels so much like Vampire Survivors. I wouldn't say it's like a fresh take on the genre. I feel like it's an upgrade to what some of the other games have done. This one feels like a completely fresh take. It feels totally different, and it's a lot of fun for a very, very low price. So I would absolutely recommend checking it out. I think that you would enjoy it if you love these kinds of games.
Final round!
So real quick, let me talk about some of the games upcoming that I am very much looking forward to. One of them is Portal Fantasy. This comes out on April 16th. The dev of this game did reach out to us, and I am very much looking forward to this. This was actually on my wish list already, so it's really cool that they reached out. This is a turn-based tactics monster catcher, which there is a lot of them out there, so I'm really interested to see what this game brings to the genre and does differently. There's also Scared, which comes out on April 17th. This is a first-person horror game that takes place in an apartment building in Singapore, and it looks absolutely terrifying. I know that it's like kind of like a puzzle game as well, so you're having to like go through, find different things, kind of solve a little bit of a mystery in there, while all the scary stuff is happening, and like it legit looks horrifying. So I'm very excited to see how this one goes. It's one of those ones where it's just like, I don't know if I've got the guts to play this one. Like I played Order 13 and like I felt like I nearly died trying to play that one. And I don't mean in game. I feel like I almost died in real life trying to play that one. So we'll see how that goes. Well, that remains to be seen. If I can work up the courage to play Scared, I will play it. It's going to be one that I got to play with the lights on, maybe with some like, fun upbeat music piping into my headphones and a snack or something that I can also try to focus on. So I don't get like overly engrossed into the game to the point that I get too scared. That's Scared. It's in the name. The last one I wanted to point out is Sacre Blue. It looks like Sacre Blue, but I'm calling it Sacre Bleu because I took French. I know what I'm saying. No, Sacre Bleu. This comes out on the 17th as well. I was part of the playtest group on this. This is a fast-paced bullet time action platformer where you play as a musketeer, like 17th century musketeer time. And like this kind of like cartoony, somewhat steampunk influenced version of France. It's really cool, guys. It's a lot of fun. I'll probably talk about this more in a future episode. This might be like one of my main topic focuses since I got to be part of the playtest group on this. I was just kind of like waiting to be able to talk about it, and now that it's coming out, I'll probably talk more about it on another episode. So I'm going to save really getting into it until then. But yeah, it comes out on the 17th. So like by the time this episode comes out, like all these games that I'm like, oh, I'm looking forward to this, they're already out. They're out already. Go check them out. I don't know why I was like, these are the games I'm looking forward to, when by the time you hear this, they've been out for several days. So go check them out now. See what people are saying about them. See if I was right to be looking forward to these. And if I wasn't, feel free to, I don't know, tell me that I'm wrong, I guess. I don't know. Something I'm not wrong about, though, is that you will have my undying gratitude if you can do me a favor and share this podcast with someone who loves indie games. I would say share this episode, but like because it's just me, this wouldn't be like, the quintessential flavor, the usual flavor that you would typically get. But anyway, maybe someone would like it. I don't know. You let me know. But if you know someone who loves indie games and loves deep dives into indie games, send them a link. Show them the podcast. That would do me a huge, huge favor. And you can catch me playing some of the games that I discussed over on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/nerdsloth. It doesn't look like me anymore. It's our mascot. It's Seymour the Nerdsloth. He's the one playing all the games now. So I say me, it's now Seymour. So go see Seymour play some of the games we talked about, mostly just blueprints. That is what we're obsessed with right now. So go catch Seymour playing blueprints. You can also catch hundreds of hours of bonus content for $1 a month by subscribing over to the Nerdsloth Treehouse at patreon.com/nerdsloth. I swear to God, we will bring back the Nerdsloth podcast there soon. With like moving and everything, it's just been kind of a cluster of trying to, obviously you can tell by me doing solo episodes for a little bit. It's tough to wrangle some time up for both of us to be available at the same time right now. because of Joseph having to move and everything. So we're getting there. We'll get the Nerd Sloth podcast going back up on that Patreon as well. But there are like 30 something episodes up there right now too, for those at that $5 tier level to listen to, along with several other exclusives for only those members at the $5 tier. You can also find a link to our Discord server, a link to our merch store by going to nerdsloth.com, which actually, as of recording this today, the official website's gonna go away soon, and we're gonna just rely kind of on our link tree, so we don't have to shell out like $200 a year, because that's expensive, and we're a tiny little studio making stuff. So if we don't have to pay $200 a year, all the better. You can also join our subreddit for Indie Game Arcade. Help me post some reviews of indie games, so more folks can find games that suit their play style. Seriously, feel free to go there, post some reviews of indie games. I would love that. I would love that. Just be, nice about it.
Game over.
That's game over for me. My name is Chris once again, and I will continue on the next episode.
Continue.
Indie Game Arcade is recorded and produced by Sloth Creative. If you're looking for more gaming content, head over to youtube.com/nerdsloth. For additional podcasts, go to nerdsloth.com. If you'd like to support the show, there are multiple tiers available at patreon.com/nerdsloth, with hundreds of hours of bonus content from everything we do at Sloth Creative, including bonus gameplay videos of the games we talk about on the show. The theme music for the show is Retro Game Tapes by Audio Lime. If you'd like to get in touch with us, or if you're an indie game developer and would like us to consider reviewing your game, send us an email to podcasts@nerdsloth.com with the subject line Indie Game Arcade.